Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. My name is Jason Robertson, owner of Outdoor Legacy and one of your co-hosts for the last 372 episodes. And the guy who's been right here across the screen from me on all of those episodes. Hans, what is going on in your part of East Texas tonight?
Yeah, across the screen, but I can't see you, so that makes this podcast a little bit more of a challenge. It would be a lot easier if we could see each other, but there are days when you probably don't want to look at me, and that's okay. I understand that. We're about to kick this thing off, but before we do anything, if you haven't already, you're watching the show on YouTube or listening on Spotify, give us a subscribe or make sure you follow us. Again, we've talked about it before. Sometimes YouTube's not great about recommending the videos, or if you're relying on YouTube to remind you to watch the show, that they'll send you a notification. They don't always do that. So subscribing, and there's also a notification bell, Jason. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where you can turn it on a specific channel, and it will force YouTube to send out a reminder. So do that, subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you watch the Late Night Vision Show and you enjoy it and you come to us for a lot of your information and knowledge, we appreciate that. We do that because this is what we do full time. We sell night vision and thermal optics. Outdoor Legacy is the company that's owned by Jason. I work there as well. We both do a lot of different things. Garrett as well, and the ladies. But we are here to provide ultimate customer service, and we do that. We strive to do that with every transaction, with every phone call, you name it. We're out there trying to make sure that we please our customers the best that we can. And that means that we would love to have your business. You're watching the show, you're interested in an optic, or maybe your buddy is, and they want to talk about it and they want to buy from Outdoor Legacy. Give them our number. Write down the number, 877-350-1818, outdoorlegacy.com. We would love your business. We'd appreciate it. We don't expect it. We're going to try to earn it. And we do that through step A all the way to the very end of the transaction. So we appreciate y'all. Anyway, we'll get to the main course at hand. The title is kind of interesting, Jason. I think it's going to raise some eyebrows, but 3 reasons why you don't need a laser rangefinder. And we're going to have a lot to say about that, but this is not a show to convince you that you don't need a laser rangefinder. I want to get that right off of the chest right at the bottom. This is not us saying you don't need a laser rangefinder. But we get so many phone calls on a daily basis of like, the conversation, Jason, as you know, goes from, okay, I'm looking for a scope. Now, do I need a laser rangefinder or don't I? So we go through the scenarios of what we feel like would qualify somebody for a good candidate for a laser rangefinder. And not everybody, after that conversation, some people are like, yep, I definitely need a laser rangefinder. And there's a fair amount of people, quite a few, that are like, okay, well, I don't really feel like I need one after talking to you about it. So if you find yourself in the 3 categories or the 3 things that we're going to mention today, and you say, you know what, all of those kind of hit home for me, I don't really feel like I need a laser rangefinder now after hearing this. Or you may say, you know what, that doesn't describe me, so maybe I do need a laser rangefinder. And we're going to do a follow-up show sometime in the future. 3 reasons why you need a laser rangefinder. May not be right away, it may be further on down the line, but we're going to talk about a few. Jason's going to kick it off here, but we're going to talk about a few things that might be reasons why you don't. And I think this is kind of a different perspective, Jason. We're not trying to talk people out of something, but we don't want you to buy a scope with a laser rangefinder if you don't need it. I think we can all agree that that's not ideal. And Jason and I in particular, are not people, and I won't speak for you, Jason, but I know this about you. You and I aren't the first person to say, hey, you've got to get a laser rangefinder. I'm not the type of person. I don't particularly feel like I need a laser rangefinder, but the 3 things that we're going to talk about, I fit into every single one of these. So Jason, I'll let you get it kicked off. I've talked enough, but here we go. 3 reasons why you don't need a laser rangefinder.
Yeah, you're right, Hans. The laser rangefinders, it is a big discussion, more so than ever, because there's more optics that have them, more scopes than ever before. And at one time, we remember when the first laser rangefinder ever hit a scope, and it was a big deal. And now it's just becoming more and more common. But there is, there's still normally a cost associated with it. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. You're right about, you know, we are not the first two to always recommend it. And before I jump into my first point, I'm going to explain why. I think that if you talk to someone who, let's say, is maybe in the Midwest or in the Northwest or somewhere where they've got big, huge, wide open, cropland fields or giant pastures. Well, again, we're going to talk about this. That they may have more of a need of it. And so for them, they can't see past the idea of, well, obviously, everyone may need a laser range. Why would you not? And then for us, we have a good mix. I mean, we have close range stuff, we have mid range, we have fields that, maybe we can't see a mile, but we can definitely see 5, 6, 7, 800 yards in places. And so sometimes we could need that. But so I would just say for us, I think, Hans, I'm going to kind of speak for you. I think that we realize not everybody is in a scenario where they need one. And that kind of brings me to the first point. And that is, we talk to a lot of guys, and I'm going to say this right here. This is not just the South, what I'm about to say. It's other places as well. And this is guys who aren't hunting big fields. I talk to guys who are in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, East Coast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who are saying, man, I'm hunting very small fields. I'm hunting, I know what a lot of people call woodlots. I'm hunting in these fields where I may not be able to see 50, 75, 100 yards. So I don't need a laser rangefinder. I don't care. There's no reason for me to need that. I can look out there and know that those trees are at 50 or 150 yards, and anything inside of that is going to be a point blank and shoot, I can't even say that right. Point blank and shoot.
It sounded
Point
funny, but I
and
think
shoot,
I think it makes sense. Yeah.
I think so. They'll get
Point
it. They'll
blank and shoot. Yeah, that's not
exactly.
right.
Shooting blanks. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So, gosh, we've lost. We're already off the rails on
I don't
point
even
one.
remember what you were saying.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
me neither. It wasn't important. But no, so I do think that is something that needs to be said from the outset. If you tell me, hey, Jason, I literally cannot see past 225, maybe even 250 yards. That's as far as I can see. And I would say, you don't need a laser rangefinder. Again, talking about shooting normal calibers, most stuff is going to be fairly flat out to that 200 yards, give or take. Another thing, we talk to guys who are hunting very, very close. They're hunting in the woods, maybe, big stands of timber, and they're shooting in between trees. We talk to guys who are hunting down log roads or in log sets, food plots, and there's just not a reason for them to need that laser rangefinder to let them know how far that animal is, because everything they see is in a shootable range. So I guess putting a bow on that would be, if you look at the way you're hunting the majority of the time, and that is 200 yards and in, you can't see much past that. I just don't see a reason for most people in those scenarios to get a laser rangefinder. And one quick thing I'm going to point out, and I want to make this point at the beginning, maybe should have already done it, but for some people, and this is not Hans and I, for some people, they want a laser rangefinder to be able to accurately shoot further. Okay, so I want to shoot 300 yards, but I need to know that it's 300 yards. Right. We view that there is a very, I would argue, a larger percentage of people, me and you included in this group, that need a laser rangefinder, or if we need a laser rangefinder, it's to prevent us from shooting too far. I don't want to say, how far can I shoot? I want to say, gosh, I want to make sure I'm not shooting too far. So,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with either one of those. It's actually being honest with yourself and
Mm-hmm.
saying, what is my skill set? And if your skill set is shooting two, three, four, 500 yards, and you need to know how far that is, great. But there's a lot of guys like me that say, I really want to keep that under 200. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure if I'm on a big field that it's not accidentally 275 and I can't tell that. And so
Yeah.
again, I just wanted to kind of bring that in that there is a couple different reasons to even have the laser rangefinder in general. All right, Hans.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. The first reason Jason said, you're just hunting in generally small fields, brush cover, not very long distances, or in areas that you're familiar with. Like you and I hunt pretty much the same areas every night. If you ask me how far a range is, I can tell you just because I see that property all the time during the day. So that's a big thing. You and I get calls and people say, you know what, I'm looking for a scope. And my buddy told me that I have to get a laser rangefinder. Don't get a scope without a laser rangefinder. And I think this might kind of circle into what you were talking about before. A lot of that is I think, for confidence. It's not because they're shooting long range. It's not because they're hunting on new properties all the time. It's just for having the confidence of knowing how far a certain shot is. So it's like, people that play golf and they carry around those laser rangefinders, and it's a golf course that they play twice a week. They know the ranges of everything, but they're still out there ranging every other shot, is because they feel confident knowing the exact yardage. So that is a big part of it. I do think that the mental aspect of knowing the exact yardage can go a long way.
Hans, I want to say one quick.
Yeah,
I want to say
go
one
ahead.
quick thing that I didn't look at my notes well, and you hit on it twice there, and I'll be very brief. But you said familiar with the property, and that's one thing that I think is huge, and I totally missed that. There it is on my notes, and I'll just say that is a reason I personally don't use a laser rangefinder myself, because I am hunting primarily two places that I own, and I'm on those places all the time. One of them I live on. I walk off my back porch. Yes, I can see 500 yards, but I know exactly how far everything is. I know where the creek turns back. I know where that brush pile is. I know where that gate is. I know what's 150, 200, 250. So again, I can make sure I'm not shooting too far. Same thing if I go to my other farm. I know those distances. I know it's very similar. You're hunting a whole lot of family farms that you're on those places, night after night or week after week. And you have maybe gone out there during the daytime and ranged, and before we even
Yeah.
had rangefinders, using Google Earth and things, and you get an idea in the daylight of, I know how far that is, and then you make that mental note and you're good. But you said it,
Yeah.
familiar. If you're hunting new places
Yeah.
all the time, that's a little bit different.
Exactly. So yeah, going out there during the day and kind of getting a lay of the land. Also, a tool that I use is OnX. It's an app on your phone. A lot of people have some type of, I don't know, it's a hunting app, but you can go in there and measure yardages and stuff during the day and see the aerial map over your property. It's a really cool
That's right.
tool. It's OnX. There's some others out there that the names escape me. But anyway, so the second reason why you don't need a laser rangefinder, and this is a more tricky one, because I think people, I don't want to get into a caliber debate. I don't want to get into a ballistics debate. If y'all want to fight it out in the comment section, I will gladly let you, and I will let Jason respond to all the comments.
No.
But
No,
there are exceptions. I do want to put a star by this. There are exceptions to what I'm about to say. And so the first exception is the vast majority of shooting at night is done under 200 yards. Yes, you might be in an area where you're all the time taking 250, 300 yard shots. But at night, 300 yards, 400 yards, that's considered very, very long range. And the great thing about hunting at night is a lot of times you can get coyotes to come in quicker or closer. You can stalk up closer on coyotes. You can stalk up close on hogs. So the vast majority of actually pulling the trigger and shooting is done under 200 yards. The great thing about that is most of the modern hunting calibers that most people are using, and I don't want to spit them all off, but 308, 243, 270, 6.5 Grendel, all the AR calibers, all of the stuff out there. A lot of people using 6 Creedmoors. If you zero that rifle at 50 or 100 yards, you're going to be very close to dead on at 200 yards. So there's not a lot of drop ballistics difference from where you're going to be shooting. I zero all of my scopes. I'll be honest with you, Jason, lately I've gotten lazy. I've been zeroing my scopes at 25 yards. And because all of my
I'm
shots
still
are
at 50, so I'm way past you.
I know.
Yeah, I don't
used
ever
to always
go past 50.
I always used to do it at 50, and now I'm like 25 because all my shots have been at like 30 and 40 and 50 yards lately. So I've gotten kind of lazy. My range out here by my house is a little bit small. But most of your calibers, if you're zeroing at 50 or 100 yards, there's not going to be a lot of bullet difference in your yardages from those ranges out to a couple hundred yards. So, I like to shoot a 243 when I'm coyote hunting. It's a very flat, fast round. It can be, depending on the ammo you're using. There's just not a lot of play in this stuff. You can almost hold that reticle dead on at 100 or 200 yards and hit the coyote or hit the pig. Now, again, here's the exceptions. You might be one of the rare people that are taking regular long range shots. And again, you might fit into the person. If you, like I said, if you don't find yourself in one of these boxes, that means you're probably a good candidate for a laser rangefinder. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for you to discover and learn. Also, the calibers, there's guys out there that are hunting with suppressed 300 blackouts. Yes, there is a lot of bullet drop difference under 200 yards with that, 22 mags, all that. There are some calibers, but most of the modern calibers that we're using, that all of you call in to me and say that they're using, there's just not a lot of drop distance out to a couple hundred yards. Jason, there's going to be some long range shooting expert that is going to prove me wrong in the comment section, and that's okay. I'm never claimed to be an expert on anything,
the internet is full of experts.
I can shoot a coyote or two, so that's the only credibility I've got, I guess.
So I agree with everything you said there, and before I roll into this third and final point, you know what? No, I'm going to wait till the end. I want y'all to stick around. I'll make some final comments, and Hans may have some too before we close. So the third thing is, I think this is important, and this comes down to dollars, money. And very, very often at the end of the day, when we have these conversations with people, it comes down, as it normally would and you would expect, to dollars, to money, to budget. And most people come in and say, hey, I've got a budget of about this, okay? I can't go over this, or, some range. And I think that's fantastic. That's the way you need to be looking at scopes. Is one of the things needs to be what your budget is. And sometimes, swinging the extra money for a laser rangefinder in your scope can put you out of your budget. And then what that might mean is now I have to go down to a lower resolution scope that costs less, that has a lesser image quality, that has a shorter identification and shooting range, but I'm getting the laser range. And maybe that's the right answer depending on how you hunt. But about as least expensive as this is going to be is about $200, or let's say 10% to upgrade to a laser rangefinder on some more of the, I hate to use the word entry level, but really more entry level style scopes, in that $1,800 to $2,500 range. Generally, it's going to cost you somewhere around 10% to get that laser rangefinder in the exact, not giving up anything, and just getting a laser rangefinder on that optic. Now, when we get up into the more expensive optics, sometimes you're talking about 30-35% more. There's one particular scope I'm thinking of right now, 640 scope, I'm going to call it the little brother, that does not have a laser rangefinder. That is 100% identical to the big brother, except for the laser rangefinder. Right now is about $1,700 more. And that's a lot of difference. And so I think it's very important to take a realistic look at your budget. And so, again, if you need it, and if you're like, I really, really need this, then I think you need to spend that money. You need to budget for it if you got to stop and save for it. But if number one and number two that we've gone over here are you, and you're like, well, I really don't need it. And I think number three is if you're on a budget and it's kind of tight, don't splurge on it if you don't need it. Now, I also understand that there are people who would say, hey, I got this budget. Somewhere in here is what I want to be. Yeah, it's going to cost me $500 more, but I've got the money. And it really, it's a safety net, kind of like Hans mentioned. I want it, sure, $500 or whatever it is, $200 or $1,700. I'm going to get it. Go for that if that's you. But for a lot of people, I would say the budget comes down to, oh gosh, I really am, picking all my pennies up here. I don't want to spend $200, $300, $400, $500 more if I don't have to. And that's what we're trying to do right here is help the guys who don't know or maybe are on the fence about whether they need it. So go ahead.
Well, I want to add something on the money talk, because the situation that I've run into with people is they're having to decide between an optic with a built-in laser rangefinder versus a really good, optic with optimal best picture quality with no laser rangefinder. So they're choosing a subpar I don't want to say subpar, but not as good an optic because it has a built-in laser rangefinder versus something that may have the best picture image in its class, or maybe even more resolution than the optic with the built-in laser rangefinder, but it's right there in the same budget. So now you're trying to choose between, do I want the laser rangefinder or do I want the best image quality that I can get? If you're asking me personally, I'm investing my money in the picture quality. I'm not investing my money in the laser rangefinder. And so that's where a lot of the time the financial decision comes down to many times. Now, again, it may make more sense for a laser rangefinder, but if you're asking me and I'm choosing between best picture quality I can get or laser rangefinder, to me, it's always going to come down to image quality.
So I totally agree. And again, this is saying that you're not one of these people in number one, or number two. Yeah, I think that changes it. But if you are, and you're here on this seesaw of what do I do, I'm with you 100%. I would also say, I don't think this guy's going to be watching this show, so I won't say anything, bad, but we're dealing with a situation actually today. It's been going on for a week or so. This guy bought a scope. He believed that he needed a laser rangefinder. He spent $500 more to get that. He got it, actually got out, used it, and realized he didn't need it, and then had a lot of buyer's remorse about spending that extra money. And that extra money was, in his case, probably, I'd have to do the math, but, over 10%, maybe 15% more on that scope. And he called us with buyer's remorse of, I spent this money and I just don't need, and his words were, I thought I needed it, but I have no reason to use this laser rangefinder anymore. I mean, I could use it. It could be cool, but it's not worth this money to me. And so that happens. Now, that also happens, to be fair, full disclosure, guys who wish they had gotten it. So I know that goes both ways, but, I even sometimes make the comment, well, nobody gets a laser rangefinder and wishes they didn't have it, but I add a caveat, unless it has to do with money, because we do see that, and that's back to this point 3, it's back to budget. Again, if you won the lottery tomorrow, okay, if money is no object, you're not going to buy the scope with the laser rangefinder and get down the road and go, gosh, I wish it didn't have this. I never use it. It shouldn't be there. The only time you're going to do that is say, I really wish it wasn't there, is when, again, the dollars matter. And you go, man, I really don't need this. And it may be if you're really looking for something lightweight, sometimes, depending on the scope, the laser rangefinder can add a little more weight. But I have two quick points I want to make here. And Hans mentioned giving up image quality or even some other feature to get the laser rangefinder. Sometimes people have to do that. Another thing that I see people do is they have to spend extra money on the scope to get the laser rangefinder, which was, could be or was going to be budgeted toward buying a handheld. And a monocular or a handheld thermal is extremely valuable as well. And if you take that budget and put it into a laser rangefinder and say, well, now I can't afford it, or now maybe it's going to take me another year to save up to get that handheld, that can be a negative as well. And the last thing that I'm going to just touch on is I do think where we're at today in the market with social media and a lot of the things that you see, people putting videos out, the churn of the discussions on Facebook and the hunting forums and maybe Instagram, whatever, is there's peer pressure to buy something with a laser rangefinder. I will just tell you that the cool kid thing to do now is to buy something with a laser rangefinder and the ballistics and be able to, whether you're really going to or not, to work up all these ballistics in this calculator and be able to shoot 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 yards, whether you're going to do it or not. There's just a lot of peer pressure to do it. I talked to a guy week before last, and he went on and on about, man, I bought this with the laser rangefinder. I got the ballistics set up, had to do all this, and now I can shoot this target at 600 yards, but I'm never going to do that at night on an animal. Not only do I not feel confident in it, I don't have the area to do it. I'm hunting with cows in the pasture. Mm-hmm. It could be a calf. All these things, like I'm never going to do that. But man, it sounded really cool. Everybody was talking about it. So I do think that there is peer pressure to do that. Now, I want to wrap and give my final thought, and I'll let Hans have the last say. So this is negatives here. We've been talking about why not to get a laser rangefinder. We've thrown out some reasons of why you should. I don't want people to walk away from this and say, well, Hans and Jason said it from the outset. They don't generally use laser rangefinders, so nobody should. Not at all. Not at all. We may do a show down the road talking about 3 reasons, why you should have a laser rangefinder. We may do that. There are reasons. There are positives. There are people who absolutely need it, or people that it definitely helps and gives that confidence to and allows them to shoot further. And there's guys that can't, Hans talked about shooting everything at 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. There's guys we talk to that say, I can't get a coyote within 250 yards because they've all been educated. So we're not anti-laser rangefinder. Yeah. What we are is we're here to make sure that people aren't spending more money than they need to, or not getting the correct scope for their needs because they're buying features, functions, and things because they, peer pressure, they think they need it, their buddy said they had to have it, or whatever reason. And then it's, I kind of like to use the analogy of, if you bought a truck with a 100-gallon gas tank and you don't do anything but drive to church on Sunday and it's 5 miles down the road, it didn't really hurt you, but it didn't benefit you either. You've got that 100-gallon gas tank.
It hurts your pocketbook.
It hurts your pocketbook, and there's just not a real good reason. It's kind of a waste. And so we don't want anybody to waste their money. So anyway, that's my awesome. My wrap.
So that's been it, y'all. Episode 373, the 3 reasons why you don't need a laser rangefinder. Kind of a provocative title there, but going over them again. First one, if you hunt on areas or in areas that you're very familiar with, or a lot of close range shooting, brush cover, small fields, that kind of stuff. The second reason was most hunting calibers at night are good out to a couple hundred yards as far as dead on zero, and still believe that still to this day. And the last one is for financial cost, the added cost that it gives you to get that feature. So those have been 3 reasons. Again, we might do a show down the road. It's 3 reasons why. Again, if you haven't found yourself in one of these buckets, then you might be a good candidate for a laser rangefinder. But the only way to really know for sure is to give us a call. You can call us at 877-350-1818 if you want to buy your optic from Outdoor Legacy. We want to talk this through, talk it with you, talk it through. Why am I struggling? Talk it through with you.
There you go.
And to see if this is something you want to do. And at the end of the day, you might say, you know what? I'm not a good candidate for a laser rangefinder, but dadgummit, I want one. So, and if that's at the end of the day, that is your decision and you'll love it.
Sure.
There have been some people that are like, I didn't need it, but there are a lot of people that get them and are like, yeah, I don't use it that much, but I like having it. And that's for whatever reason, that's perfectly fine. But again, 877-350-1818, outdoorlegacy.com. If you know what you want, you can hop right on the website and buy it right there. But we definitely appreciate your business. If you are, again, and you're watching this show on YouTube, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. If you're not doing so, you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, The Late Night Vision Show, as well as Outdoor Legacy and Hans ETX on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. And we will be back again next Thursday, episode 374. It's going to be a great show. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it's going to be great. All right. Hey, listen, hope you enjoyed this show. Again, Hans told you where to find us. Hope to see you here again next week. But between now and then, y'all stay safe.